Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 42 of
Oh,
Beer
yeah.
versus Ivy. We are in our Jackie Robinson era. For those who don't remember, or this is your first time tuning in, I am Jackson Gross. Typically, I am here with my Cardinals rival and co-host Cy Ingersoll, but with the Cubs on their way to a potential playoff spot, and honestly, because Cy's internet is not working yet because he just moved down to Texas,
Come on, Cy.
we have brought in Mr. Brayden Conrad back, a regular guest here at Beer versus Ivy. We'll start with this. Welcome back, Brayden. How you doing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me on again. Just need to share the title that I am Beer versus Ivy's favorite guest. That was said a couple weeks ago. So I have that on lockdown. Sorry to everybody else. Anyway, doing pretty good. Been working a lot, working on the weekends, which kind of sucks, but I have like the beginning of the week off. So that's pretty fun. Finishing up some schooling stuff this semester. Ready for football season. Football season starts tomorrow night, so that's pretty dope. Hoping my Falcons can win the NFC South, maybe make it to a divisional playoff game. That'd be pretty cool. Anyway, check out all that stuff on TDT. A lot of good football stuff coming out from us. Anyway, it's really all I got. How about yourself, Jackson?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, and 1,000 times I will agree with you. Please make sure to check out all our football content. If you missed last week's episode of Third Down Thursdays, we had a chaotic NFL fantasy draft. I think I did a pretty solid job overall, considering I did have the fourth pick, but we'll see how that goes. But yes, we have voice crack. Team previews. Every week we will have game previews from all of our beat writers. Any breaking news that happens during the week, like I'm assuming you will write later, is that Kyle Pitts is dealing with a hamstring injury.
It's not a big deal. 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 We're not worried about it. We're not worried about it.
We'll have all that for you. I have my third installment of my yearly quarterbacks rankings article on the way. That's almost done. It's a long read. So whenever that does go up in the next couple of days, get your favorite snacks because it's going to be a fun time. But
does Caleb Williams crack the top 10 or is that?
No, not even close.
Okay. All right.
I will spoil one spot I have for somebody. And yes, Connor, we acknowledge you. We know that you're here, buddy. Thank you for hopping in. I have to say, this is going to come to a shock to many of you, but I have Patrick Mahomes at number 1. I know. Crazy scenes. But if you want to see the rest of them, once that article goes up, please head on over to thirddown.thursdays.com. and read all of that. But enough shameless plugging about football. We're here to shamelessly plug. I was going to say, we're here to shamelessly plug about baseball. And this is why we're here with divisional storylines. And the first one on the docket, as always, is with the AL East. And we're trying to figure out what's going on with Juan Soto. And that is according to multiple sources and a whole bunch of different well-respected journalists in the field and insiders, that the Yankees and the Mets will most likely be the favorites for Juan Soto's services heading into the offseason, but that the Giants could be a team that tries to throw their hat in the ring. My guess is that, like with every other marquee free agent outside of Blake Snell, they will probably come out on the losing end, unfortunately. But what do you think about, or what do you think is going to happen with Juan Soto once the season's done?
Well, I think that the Yankees would be absolutely bona fide scrubs if they don't pour out their little piggy bank on Mr. Juan Soto. I mean, he complements Aaron Judge so well in the Yankees lineup. And to be able to have two players who are incredible at hitting home runs. Soto's already got 37 this year, and Judge is already over 50. So why would you not unload your piggy bank on Juan Soto? Other than Shohei, I mean, he's going to get a lot of money next year, especially
Mhm.
being only 25 years old. The
God
Yankees got to lock
damn.
him up. The Yankees got to put the handcuffs on him, lock him in a cave, don't let him talk to anybody else. Find his phone,
Yeah,
change his phone number, make sure Scott Boras isn't his agent.
I think he is, if memory serves, but I'm probably wrong on that. But yeah, just to go off of that stuff, he'll be 26 at the end of October, October 25th. He is top 20 in batting average, top 5 in home runs, top 10 in RBIs, and he's third in OPS at 1,000 or basically 1.001. And
Yeah, and he's hitting a 291, but his on base percentage is 419. Like that's incredible.
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what he has been able to do for the Yankees. They're not first in the division, though. That title belongs to the Baltimore Orioles. They're up by half a game at this point. That's going to basically come down to the last game of the year for the division, in my opinion. But I have a weird feeling. The Mets are doing, and we'll get into them later. They're doing a pretty good job themselves. They're in a big dog fight for that last wild card spot with the Braves.
Yeah.
I think if the Mets make the playoffs and like win a series, if they win their wild card series against whoever they go against, which I think would probably, who would that be? That would be against Philly. They got somehow upset Philly. Then, and if the Yankees flame out in the playoffs, I could see a world where Juan Soto takes the subway to City Field.
Possibly, yeah. The only is Pete Alonso. Isn't he in a contract year?
Yes, he signed a deal to avoid arbitration, but he's an upcoming free agent. That's why when the Mets were worse in the early parts of the year, they were considering trading him, but then they went on the crazy run thanks to Grimace. So
yeah,
that
would
all
be a
changed.
pretty nasty lineup though too. Alonso and Soto.
And
Soto would just get
Francisco
on base.
Lindor.
Yep. Soto
So
would just get on base with an unnecessary clip, and Alonso that's a 2-run homer, just waiting to happen every time.
Yeah. Plus, even some of the other support guys like a Brandon Nimmo has been really, really good. Jeff McNeil's a solid utility guy at this point in his career. There's some good. Mark Vientos has been solid. Francisco Alvarez is a good catcher behind the dish. So there's some good talent over there with the Mets. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But we're gonna move on to the AL Central. And initially, when the Kansas City Royals were playing the Cleveland Guardians, I saw a tweet from Jeff Passan saying that the Royals were now first in the AL Central. Like, I'm taking my victory lap. That's my American League team. Bibby Watt, my guy Jake Eisenberg, who does the broadcast for the Royals. Let's do it. The Royals are winning the Central. And it seems that gave them a curse because they have fallen off hard since then. And that's right, 7 fingers, meaning 7 straight losses. They've fallen all the way to third place in the Central, a game back of the Twins, and 5.5 back of Cleveland. What the fall off of the Kansas City Royals has to be studied because what is going on?
Oh, that's a good question. It doesn't seem like Bobby Witt is still hitting, but I know they did have some struggles with pitching earlier on, but and they ended up playing Cleveland and Houston again, which isn't list of schedules. But no, it's crazy that this team was projected to take over the AL, or at least the AL Central part, and has fallen off so quickly. Looking at some of their top batting averages right now, I mean, obviously you have Bobby Witt hitting 340, but other than that, the next highest guy is Salvador Perez at 270, and then you have Vinny Pasquantino, who's on the 10-day IL, who's hitting 260. So looks like to me they're just not hitting the ball. And they're not getting Bobby Witt around to home. Bobby Witt's still getting on base. And my hot take, just real quick, and I have to do this because I have a FanDuel bet for it, that Bobby Witt still somehow beats out Aaron Judge for AL MVP. But that's just me. Royals aren't.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, because I was just taking a look at their 7-game losing streak. 6 out of the 7 games they've lost, they've scored 3 or less.
Oof, yeah.
Their only one they scored more was when they lost 7-5. Lucas Urseg, who they got from the A's, has lost 2 of those games. And it looks like it's just the pitching staff as a whole. I can't even nail down.
It really just looks
Brady
like it's
Singer
offense
and Michael
pitching
Wacha, starters and relievers have lost games at this point in the year. There's only 14,000 people in Kansas City on Tuesday for the game against Cleveland. That's fun.
I seen that. Yeah, I just seen that.
But anyway, yeah, they got to figure out their bats. Losing Vinny Pasquantino is a bigger loss than I thought it would be already. But they got to get their stuff together. They got one more game against Cleveland today, and then they have Minnesota, New York, and then they end the year at Atlanta, which is just bizarre.
Their schedule isn't getting any easier.
No, but I mean, they do get Pittsburgh, Detroit, and San Francisco and Washington after that.
Washington. But I mean, hey, you can't beat these good teams now. What's saying that you're going to beat them in the playoffs is
right. And there is a little concern considering that the Tigers and the Red Sox are within somewhat striking distance of that last wild card spot, 4.5 games. So that series against Detroit in Kansas City is going to be really, really important if things stay the same, because if Detroit comes and brings out the brooms, there's a chance the Royals could miss the playoffs altogether, which would be mind-boggling.
That would be absolutely crazy. I was just telling you before the show too. It's looks like the AL playoffs are kind of looking like they're set in stone. But now looking at the Royals' upcoming schedule, some things could be changing. And even with Pittsburgh, they're playing Pittsburgh. We've seen with Jacoby Jones and Paul Skeens that if they end up facing them 2 out of 3 games, that could be 2 losses right there.
And it is going to be Jones and Skeens for those first 2 games at Pittsburgh.
Man.
And it doesn't say who there's pitching on Friday, but Saturday the 14th, they have Michael Wacha going against Paul Skeens.
Ooh.
So Royals got to get their bats together at this point. Go ahead.
No. I'm piggybacking off of you. You're good.
Okay. So yeah, I think that's the biggest thing moving forward for them. I don't even know what they do at this point. Just hope Pasquantino is ready in time for the playoffs. I think I saw he was going to be out for a hot minute. I know it says he's on the 10-day IL, but I thought I saw he was out for 6 weeks or something. If I'm misremembering something, but yeah, it's got to start hitting, especially as it gets colder, because especially in Kansas City, you got it in Cleveland. There will be one warm weather city in the AL playoffs, and that's going to be Houston. So you got to find ways to generate runs.
Right. Pitching gets so much better when the weather gets cold, especially with high fastball throwing guys like Skeens, who will just run it up the inside on you in your lineup, and you can't do nothing about it except jam shots and whatnot. So Kansas City's got to start hitting. And I mean, their pitching's going to have to back up their lineup too, because even their, like we talked about earlier, their pitching hasn't been all that good. It's been a mix of relievers and starters that have fallen off, which is going to hurt them in the long run.
They've given up 7 runs 3 times. They've given up 6 runs, 5 runs. Their closest loss was a 3-2 loss to the Astros on August 30th. So things need to shape up out there in Kansas City. But speaking of the team that just beat the Royals, swept them in 4 games, the Houston Astros, they were basically running away with the AL West. And at this point, it was a hotly contested race during July and part of August. But basically, expect another AL West banner to go up at Minute Maid Park, with them holding a 6.5 game lead over the Seattle Mariners at this point at the start of September. The Mariners have lost 4 in a row, and they are a game under 500.
All Astros here. Yep. They taking on Cincinnati and Arizona. Oakland. Arizona is going to be a tough matchup for them. Obviously, Oakland and then LA. So their schedule looks a lot lighter coming up. But other than that, I got Astros. Obviously,
I remember I was talking with one of our former writers, and she was like, "This team gives her whiplash." And that's kind of how I feel, not even as a fan. Just essentially like this team was basically dead and buried in the late stages of June and early parts of July. I mean, they were 51. They were 50 and 46.
Wow.
Heading and they're starting in the second half of the year after the All-Star break. They are now 75 and 63. What is that? That's 25 and 17, something like that.
The UC Kikuchi trade actually it's actually worked out pretty well for him. He's 3-0 with the 2.57 ERA.
I was just gonna ask what he's been doing with them, but yeah, he's won every single. The Astros have won every single start he's gone out there for them. So, I mean,
I don't know what the Astros have seen, but dang.
His worst outing was against the Orioles, where he gave up 3 runs, but he still pitched 5 2/3, and the Astros got a 6-3 win. So,
yeah. No, I mean the Astros right now they're third in MLB with a 260 batting average as a team, 4th in earned run average. So they're just winning games the right way too, and they got Hector Neris back too.
Oh, I forgot about that. I forgot, and they just got Jason Hayward too.
That is right. Yeah. Neris has a 4.91 ERA though with them, so it's like he's picked up right where he left off.
I find it absolutely hilarious that it seems like every time the Cubs like trade or get rid of a reliever and they go somewhere else, they just automatically start like playing worse. Like,
yeah,
Hector Neris was not that good with the Cubs, but he was like at least substantially better than he's been so far with the Astros.
It's funny you bring up that point. Sidetracking a little bit, but I'm pretty sure Mark Leiter Jr. has been struggling with the Yankees. If I remember correctly.
There was one point where he hadn't even thrown a 1-2-3 inning with the Yankees, and he had pitched a pretty substantial amount with them by that point. So,
yeah, 6.08 ERA in 14 games with the Yankees.
Yikes! Would you say 6.08? Is that right?
Yep, in 14 games.
Yikes! 9 runs in 13 innings. He given up 4 home runs and 6 walks. Yikes, Mark Leiter. But hey, Cubs continue to fleece. That's all we need to know about. But anyway,
general fleece jobs. Yep.
But yeah, so I think overall, I think it's all pretty much locked up away for the Astros. And you know what else is really important to lock up there, Brayden?
No, I don't know. I'm out of guesses.
you need to lock up some really good home insurance.
Erie Insurance says here's to the grown-ups who move, mortgage, mow, and still bust a move. But does your home insurance still fit? Erie helps you protect the home you've grown into, all at fair prices that are often less than the other guys. So how do you find the right coverage? Magic. Nope. Local independent agents who get to know you like this.
Your local Erie agent is Building Block Insurance Group. Get a quote today at 704-464-4544.
Erie Insurance.
And we do contact our guy, Jeff Bortepny, at 704-464-4544. Make sure to let him know that Beer versus Ivy and Third Down Thursday sent you. And that Jeff is a better relief pitcher for the Yankees than Mark Leiter Jr.
Oh,
Boom.
wow.
Roasted.
Darn.
Quick sidebar into football before we get to the NL. Just saw this. Anthony Richardson's only had 17 high school, college, and NFL starts in his career.
Yeah, I just saw that too a little bit ago.
It's like, that's weird.
Hey, people took it as their in like the third round this year in their fantasy drafts, but not me. Couldn't be me.
There's only one thing I have to say to that. Florida Justin Fields. And I think that's all I need to say. Anyway, moving back to why we're actually here, and that's to baseball. And that's because the New York Mets are once again in a heated battle with the Atlanta Braves for that last wild card spot. There have been stretches where the Braves have had a nice solid lead, but now the Mets, they're back on their grimace shit. They've won 6 in a row, and they're now just a half game back of that last wild card spot. Ian Rappaport is calling for Francisco Lindor to win NL MVP.
Yeah.
That's crazy to see. But yeah, I think the Mets, say what you want, this is one of the most resilient Met teams I have seen in a long time. And it's giving me heavy 2015 Mets vibes.
Oh, that was a good Mets team in 2015. I remember that Mets team.
Yeah, you and I remember that team well.
Yeah, very well. Their pitching struggled earlier this year. Quintana was terrible before the deadline. But Manaya's pitching his ass off. Severino's pitching his ass off. David Peterson is starting games for them. So, I mean, their pitching it has been well, and Edwin Diaz's ERA is now finally under 4. So, if he starts getting hot, I mean, the 9th inning is locked down for them. But I like their lineup too with Alonso and Lindor. McNeil is hitting better. He's getting on base. Finally at a good rate for them. So this Mets team is dangerous. I don't know where they came from because this Mets team was not supposed to be anywhere near the wild cards at the beginning of the year. Carlos Mendoza was supposed to be some scrub hire, it felt like, off the streets. But here he is turning around this team, and maybe it was his idea to bring in Grimace, and here we are. So,
and I even completely forgot JD Martinez is on this team too. He's hitting 252 with 16 home runs and 22 doubles. Like, this is a scrappy group.
Jesse Winker has gone off for them as well. He's been hitting the cover off the ball for them. I just had his 305 batting average with the Mets in 87 plate appearances.
I don't get this team, man. It makes no sense. This is like, this is a perfect example. When I do, for whatever reason, when I do rebuilds with the Colorado Rockies on MLB The Show, I expect the pitching to be bad and like me to tank. But what ends up happening is that the pitching is really good and we end up like battling for a wild card spot. It makes absolutely no sense to me. And that's how I feel about this Mets team. Like, yes, they have good hitters. They have some decent pitchers, but their top 3 starting pitchers are Luis Severino, Sean Manaea, and Jose Quintana. This
I know,
is
it's like,
all
who
without
is it?
Kodai Senga.
Right, yeah. And he only made barely one start this year. And went right back on the IL. But I was wondering, I just saw this, and I was wondering where this guy went. Andy Green. Andy Green is their farm director.
Who is Andy Green?
He was the Cubs bench coach under David Ross.
Oh, okay.
So there's a little fun fact for you.
But yeah, okay, I see it. But yeah, no, I think this Mets team has a legitimate shot at making the playoffs. Take a look at their schedule down the stretch. Woo! Okay. This is tough. They have one more against Boston, 3 against Cincinnati, 3 at Toronto. Then they have 13 games against Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Milwaukee.
Oh man,
with a reprieve.
They better start stacking up those wins versus Cincinnati and Toronto.
Yeah, because it goes at Philly the weekend of September 13th. 3 at home against Washington. 4 game set against Philly, with that Thursday game being a Fox game. 3 against Atlanta on the road, and 3 at Milwaukee to end the season when they started the year against the Brewers at home. So
6 straight
full
games
circle moment there. But yeah, 6 straight against 2 playoff teams. And was that wait, did I have my math wrong? 4, 3. Oh no, my math is right. 10 games in the division to play against the top 2 teams.
Yeah, and I'm sure I can tell you if they're going to face Sale or not, but Sale has been unbelievable this year.
It's a little too far out because that series against Atlanta is at the end of the year, like September 24th.
Yeah.
So at least on ESPN, it doesn't have a projected starter for that game yet. But no, the Mets have a tough road ahead of them. And at least comparing it to the Braves, they get Colorado, Toronto, 4 against Cincinnati, 2 against Washington, 3 against Miami. Their toughest series will be 4 games against the Dodgers, 3 against the Mets, and 3 against Kansas City at home. All those tough series they have at home.
Yeah, which is good. Which is really good for them.
So, can it be done? Sure. Will it be done? I have no idea. Not a dang clue. But for the memes, for a Grimace playoff appearance, I hope the Mets can get that last wild card or get a wild card spot. For that reason alone. For that reason alone. But since we talked about the Brewers a little bit, considering that's who the Mets are going to play at the end of the year, why don't we talk about the Steph Curry of home runs, Willy Adames? And that's because he is tied for the most 3-run homers in one season with 13. And that's tied with Ken Griffey Jr.
That is absolutely crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Yeah, he's hit like, I think 7 in his last however many games. I just read it earlier. Here I go. Losing all my stuff. 7 in his 14 games. So he's hitting 500 for home run. He's got a 50% home run percentage right now in his last 14 games. I hate the Brewers.
Let's see. Let's see. No, I don't. Okay, most single season home runs. Fast 60, fast 61. I don't care. I saw a stat. Here we go.
Well, here's a fun stat. 26 home runs versus righties, but only 3 home runs versus lefties. So I think the Cubs are.
Let's see. Okay, so also he's homered in 5 consecutive games, tying the longest streak by a shortstop since 1900.
1900.
Yes. 1900.
Good night. That was probably honestly 5 home runs was probably the record for shortstops that year in 1900.
Yeah, and so yeah, I was right. It was 13 3-run homers, tying Hall of Famer Ken Griffey Jr. for most homers of that variety. Yeah, so it's crazy. Yeah, and he has more 3-run homers this year than the Mariners, Rays, Pirates, White Sox, and Cardinals.
Holy cow.
Where the White Sox and Cardinals are tied for last with 9 3-run homers throughout this entire season.
Holy cow. Does he have any grand slams? Do you know? If he has any grand
I'm
slams?
sure he does, because why not?
Yeah, why not? Exactly.
But
yeah, but unfortunately, talking about the Brewers as a whole, I mean, it just seems like it's their division now. The Cubs look like they had a little resurgence moment there, but now it's the Brewers division once more. So, and they're doing it all with Christian Yelich.
yeah, the Brewers have the largest division lead in baseball at 10 games over the Cubs, 11 over the Cardinals, 15 over the Reds, and 15 and a half over the Pirates.
Yeah, their pitching ERA too is just outstanding at 3.61. It's not the best; it's the third best, but
yeah. I mean,
at
DL Hall
3.61
just threw like 7 shutout for them the other day. Like
DL Hall, that's an MLB The Show legend name in franchise rebuilds. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that's the trade for Corbin Burns, and I hate to say it, is turning into more and more of a win-win for both teams. I mean, the Orioles have an ace, and they've needed him considering how many injuries they had, and now the Brewers have a new third baseman and a potential starting pitcher down the road, and their best pitcher this year has been Colin Ray. It hasn't even been Freddie Peralta.
Yeah. Peralta has been lights out for them, 3.75 ERA, 153 innings. But how are the Brewers are supposed to be good? Cubs took Craig Counsell. It was supposed to be done. They were supposed to be called out as frauds, and now the Cubs got the short end of the stick.
Yeah, I mean, Colin Ray is 12-4 with a 3.70 ERA in 146 innings. And he's made 5 less starts than Peralta. It only has 7 less innings.
Devin Williams is still lights out.
Of course he is. Even though Trevor McGill has the most saves with 20. And Joel Payamps is continuing his good stretch from last year. I had a friend of mine from college who actually wrote an article for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel about Payamps. It was one of his favorites that he's ever done. So, goddamn Brewers. And now, how many home runs does he have? Adames has 29 homers. Jackson Churrio's hitting 280.
They don't have
Bryce Terang still has a 4.4 WAR.
And William Contreras is proving that he's the better Contreras brother.
Yeah.
Don't let Cy hear
that. But yeah, it's unfortunate. But from a likely division winner, we have to move on to a team that was just eliminated from playoff contention. That's the Colorado Rockies. They are one of 3 teams already to be eliminated. The other 2 being the Miami Marlins, and of course, everyone's favorite tire fire, the Chicago White Sox.
Didn't the Chicago White Sox just I saw something. So they had their longest losing streak of 24, 27 or whatever. And then they just had another losing streak of 17 or something. So they've had they
had that 20-some game, and now they're on a 12-game losing streak.
Yeah. So they've had the 2 most longest losing streaks over a certain period of time. It's so bad. I mean, did you see the play last night with we're supposed to be talking about the NL West, but yeah, I mean that explains the 2024 White Sox in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's brutal. They are, just to give perspective for people, they are 39 and a half games out of fourth.
Just give up. And then Grady Sizemore was ejected, and they were losing 9-0. It's like you're trying to motivate your team, but what are you doing?
Right. Yeah, and I mean the Rockies obviously haven't been too much better.
No.
They are actually like 20-some wins better than the White Sox, but they're 51 and 88. They're 33 games back at the Dodgers. They're actually a decent team at home. They're 32 and 37. They are 19 and 51 on the road. Which,
and you have to win on the road when you're Colorado of how much home runs fly out of there. But
yeah, with excluding the White Sox, I'm not even counting them as an MLB team anymore. They are a AAA team.
Uh-oh.
Among actual MLB teams, the Rockies have the worst road record in baseball at 19 and 51.
Wow. They also have the worst ERA in all of baseball at 5.50.
How is that possible? How are they worse than the White Sox?
Because all their starting pitchers have an ERA. No one has an ERA better than 4.60
for the starters.
Yeah, Cal Quantrill is on the IL and his ERA is 4.63.
Oh my God, that's terrible.
It's like it's the stereotype though that Colorado's never going to have a Cy Young winner.
They were close. I remember one year they were actually pretty close. Like, wasn't it like Austin? Oh no, it's Kyle Freeland who was really good.
Yeah. This is another weird one.
Yeah, and their best pitcher who's actually played like more than like 4 games, Victor Vodnik, he has a 4.04 ERA in 64 innings out of the pen. That's their best.
Night.
That is their best. That's just depressing. That is so depressing.
Yeah, they're in shambles right now. I'm sure Charlie Blackmon's is close to being done. Yeah, this is his. He's on a 1-year deal right now, so this could be his last year.
Yeah, and he's like falling off. He's sitting 247, 9 homers, 19 doubles, 71 strikeouts. Only played 104 games.
Yeah, and Ryan McMahon isn't been getting only 17 home runs. I thought like he was supposed to be their power, like he was supposed to be a power threat, but
now that's been Brenton Doyle this year, out of all people, and Michael Toglia. Doyle has 22 home runs.
Did Nolan Jones miss games this year? Yeah, he's only played in 61 games.
Yeah, he had a big injury earlier in the year, so that's why he's kind of. But I didn't even realize how good of a season Brenton Doyle's been having. 22 home runs, 24 doubles, 4 triples, 25 stolen bases, a 3.8 WAR.
Yeah, that is actually a really good season too. That is, 22 home runs.
Which is funny because typically his stats in MLB The Show are like in the 30s or 40s in terms of contact and power. So he's had a good year. Good for and Ezekiel Tovar, 21 homers, 63 RBIs, 40 doubles for Tovar.
Yeah, they're 1 and 2 for Team War right there. Doyle and Tovar.
There's some promising things on the batting end per usual with Colorado, but I would not expect anything good to come out of pitching unless they can somehow convince some free agent, convince like Roki Sasaki to.
What is their pipeline look like?
I have not a clue. I have not even thought about Colorado until like the last 25 minutes or so.
I got to do it now. I'm intrigued. Colorado, where are you at? You begin with the C. There we go. All right, pitching. Chase Dollander is their number 2.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. That's all they got for.
That's
There we go.
That's a name I know.
Brody Bretsch. There's another pitcher. So they got some pitchers coming up, but
Who knows?
maybe not anytime soon.
I think they should move all their minor league teams to Colorado, just so they can get used to pitching in low altitude or high altitude. Like, why have them pitch in normal places when they're just gonna pitch 81 games out of a year in Colorado?
Yeah, and they like dominate in the minors, and then just get railed in the
At Coors.
in the big leagues. I made a pitcher that got drafted by the Rockies in the show. I mean, of course I'm going off, but
absolute hell.
I got all the record MLB. I'm leading the league in all MLB pitcher stats and whatnot. But it's like, hey, these guys suck over here.
Oh my god!
I'm gonna be the first Cy Young that the Rockies have ever seen.
Hey, Rockies GM Brayden Conrad, sign him up. He's ready to. He's ready to dominate. He's ready to dominate.
I just need I need that 5-year Jack Gaffney plan. Shout out to Jack Gaffney.
Just train for 5 years. Become the Cy Young winner for the Colorado Rockies.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think we've made the people wait long enough for this. It's time. State of Union for the Chicago Cubs. Let's take a look at it. What's going on with our favorite team on the north side of Chicago? Let's see here if I can actually pull up the standings.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit. I mean, they've lost 2 straight versus the Pirates in embarrassing fashion. Justin Steele has elbow tightness right now, and he was scratched, and the professor had to come in and get wrecked last night. He actually wasn't that bad, but
didn't they just activate Jordan Wicks? Like, why not just throw Jordan Wicks in there?
Well, Wicks took over Hendricks' spot, but since Steele got hurt, Hendricks slid back in Steele's spot.
Oh, I see. Okay. But anyway, so yeah, just a quick update. The Cubs are sitting 4.5 back of the Braves for that last wild card spot. They did get it down to 3 games before they've lost these last 2 to Pittsburgh. And now the hard part is that the Cubs' easy part of the schedule where they dominated, where they went 1, 2, 3, they won 6 in a row against Pittsburgh and Washington.
Yep.
Is over for the next 6 games, because after this one Wednesday against Pittsburgh, where they have Shota Imanaga on the bump, they have 3 against the Yankees and then 3 on the road against the Dodgers. But then it lightens up again. They get 3 against Colorado, 3 against Oakland, 4 at home against Washington. And then they play the Phillies, and then they end the year against Cincinnati at home. So for them to lose these first 2 against Pittsburgh, not ideal, especially losing a combined 10-3 in these 2 games. So,
and they had plenty of opportunities to win these 2 games, because in game 1, Jameson Taillon threw a great game, and then Jorge Lopez came in and gave up 2 home runs. And then last night, the Cubs offense just couldn't hit Skeens. I mean, that's a story that's already been told, but this losing these 2 games, we talked about before they went on the 6-game winning streak that the Cubs had to start sweeping teams, that winning 2 out of 1 isn't going to do it, because you're still taking 2 steps forward, but you're taking 1 step back. Now losing 2 games versus Pittsburgh with the Yankees and the Dodgers coming up, I had really high confidence when they were 3 games back against the Braves, but I don't know. I got my hopes up too much, and now I'm just crushed after these last 2 games.
Yeah, and it sucks especially because the Braves didn't play on Tuesday after they lost to Philly. So you could have picked up another. You could have picked up another half game on Monday, and yeah, they beat the Rockies 3-0. So you at least could have kept pace yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So now you got it where, like we talked about earlier, Atlanta has Colorado for 2 more, Toronto for 3, a makeup game with Cincinnati, and then 2 games at home against Washington, while the Cubs are playing the Yankees and the Dodgers this entire time.
Yeah.
So
but even with these 2 losses, it shouldn't undermine the fact that the Cubs have actually played some really, really good baseball. And I know it's against bad teams, but they scored 99 runs in 10 games on their road trip. I mean, let's just talk about Pete Crow, Armstrong, and Miguel Amaya for a minute, because oh my gosh, have they been playing good baseball? Miguel Amaya has saved his career, I think, as a Chicago Cub at this in this stretch, because who knows? I'm going to get his name wrong, but is it Moises Ballesteros? Is that
Ballesteros? Yeah,
because he looks like he's ready to come up at the end of at the beginning of next year or somewhere in there. And then Pete Crow Armstrong. If this is how good PCA can play for his career, oh my gosh,
he could be that missing star the Cubs need in this lineup. Because just listen to what he did in the month of August: 314 batting average, 375 on base, 558 slugging, 4 homers, 17 RBIs, 8 walks, only struck out 14 times, stole 6 bases, was only caught once, hit 2 triples and 5 doubles. And one of those home runs was an inside the park home run.
Inside the park, yep, in Miami, yep.
Where he got around the bases in 14 seconds.
It's incredible. You think you get around the bases in 14 seconds?
It could take me about 14 seconds to maybe get from like home to halfway to second, but but no, it's incredible the turnaround he's had. And then you take a look, where's our boy? Where'd he go? The no foot tap anymore for or no leg kick for Miguel Amaya. Let's see. When was around the time he got rid of it?
It would have been an All-Star break.
It was just before the All-Star break. It was against his average on July 3rd was sitting at 186. And then he has gone on. In the month of July, he hit 333.
Mm-hmm.
In August, he hit 318. And now his average is up to 237.
Yeah. And I was on the boat of that maybe Dustin Kelly doesn't deserve a job next year, but the improvements that he's made with Amaya and PCA is kind of like, well, he might be all right.
I mean, even Dansby Swanson started to swing the bat a little bit better as of late.
And Ian Happ has been on a tear. Ian Happ's got 10 home runs in his last 14 games. So, Willy Adames. Take that.
Yeah, he's still 6 home runs behind, unfortunately.
But we can't forget to mention the legend Christian Bethancourt. Oh my God.
His 7 RBI game against the Pirates is the most hilarious 7 RBI game I've ever seen.
Yeah. I mean, this guy was supposed to be a pitcher in the Marlins organization, and he was like, no, I don't want to be a pitcher. And, just wasn't really around. And then the Cubs picked him up after Tomas Nido got hurt, I'm pretty sure. And he's hitting 417 in his last 7 games. So the Cubs went from literally the worst catching position to a not so bad catching position.
I was going to say average.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just for those who are curious how he did it for that 7 RBI game, the Cubs were down, 10-3 at one point in that game?
Yeah.
And they won 14 to 10.
Yeah, end of the ninth, I think it was 10-5 because he hit a home run. He had a 2-run home run.
It was 10-3 in the 5th inning.
I remember he hit a home run.
So here's what he did. In the second, he grounded out to shortstop to score PCA. Then he hits a 2-run homer to score PCA in the 7th. And then he doubles in PCA and Swanson in the 8th. Then he hits a 2-run single in the 9th to score PCA and Vasquez. And then he scores himself on a Mike Tauchman single. And then Suzuki hits a single to get it to 14-10. But
that was a fun 9th inning to watch. I remember watching that. That was fun.
At one point, the Pirates had an 81.6% chance of victory.
Mm-hmm.
Heading into the 8th inning, they had a 99.1 chance of victory. And they lost.
There's always a chance. There's
always a chance. Especially, you would know, especially being a Falcons fan. So I would just say that.
Hey. I thought we were talking about baseball here.
Oh, we've been sprinkling in football here and there. You should have known that was coming.
Yeah, I deserve it, I guess.
But it's okay. Anyway, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, I've been saying this for weeks. I think the Cubs will probably finish somewhere in the realm of like 2.5 to 4 to 5.5 games out. The last wild card spot, whether the Braves or the Mets get in. It's just going to be tough because you need the Braves to just basically go through a complete collapse against Colorado and Toronto over these next 1, 2, 5, 6, 8 games. And you have to take 2 of 3 from each, the Yankees and the Dodgers. You lose 2 of 3 to either of them, and the Braves do what they typically do against bad teams.
Yeah,
it's not looking good. There's still a shot, especially with the Braves still having the Dodgers, Mets, and Royals on their schedule.
Yeah.
But at that point, it could be too late.
Right. So it could be too late at that point. And plus, the one thing that I think the Cubs are struggling with, and the bullpen has done really, really good this year, especially with guys like Porter Hodge, who I think should be the Cubs' full closer. But it just feels like in that later innings, though, that it starts kind of getting wishy-washy. Like Tyson Miller isn't bad, and Jorge Lopez probably had his worst game as a Cub, and he just got hurt though too before that game. But the Cubs later inning relievers kind of scare me a little bit. Other than Porter Hodge, Porter Hodge has been really, really good. I'm in love with Porter Hodge, but so yeah. Nate Pearson has done really well though in the Cubs bullpen, which is good to see, and that could be a little like diamond piece. I've liked him. Ethan Roberts has been good. Keegan Thompson is back. I think even Keegan Thompson has a shot. He'll probably be more a long reliever, but he could have a shot at being a closer just because of the stuff that he features.
Yeah, I mean, the Cubs have done a decent job kind of like reviving the bullpen a little bit. Heck, even Sean Armstrong has been okay. He's pitched 2 innings. He gave up a run, but
my favorite Cubs bullpen stat though is that there's only one reliever. Well, it almost been 0 because they outrighted him on waivers. Was Drew Smyly. Drew Smyly has been the only Cubs reliever that has been in the bullpen since day one. Julian Merriweather's hurt right now.
Or he was, yeah.
Yeah. And so
that's crazy. I was just looking at it. Because Porter Hodge was in the minors. What is it? Nate Pearson was a trade. Tyson Miller was a trade after a DFA. Ethan Roberts was in the minors. Keegan Thompson was in the minors. Luke Little, Ben Brown, and Yency Almonte have all been injured, as has Jordan Wicks. Hayden, I think, was Wisniewski in the rotation at the start of the year?
No.
He does have 7 starts.
He made a few starts when I think they moved Hendricks to the bullpen.
Yes. So okay, so he hasn't been in the bullpen all year long, obviously. That's nuts.
Yeah.
And
And I mean,
even Ben Brown, he has 8 starts under his belt.
right. Well, Council, has been all about rebuilding the bullpen, and he's one of the guys who can throw hard. So Porter, Jorge Lopez, Keegan Thompson can get it up there in the mid 90s. So throwing fast wins games. I mean, it's been proven.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's an insane stat. That's a great poll.
That's
But-
Marquee Sports Network. That wasn't me. But.
But just before we end it here, overall, money on the line, pew pew to your head. Are you thinking the Cubs are making the playoffs?
I mean, since it's a life or death situation, you're putting me in here. No, I don't think they will. They're playing some really, really good baseball right now, but you lost 2 versus Pittsburgh already, and then you have LA and New York on your schedule, which it's like you can't lose both of those series. By that point, you may have a very slim chance of making it in with the Braves schedule. And if the Mets end up, not playing well, then maybe. But no, I mean, if I had to put money on it, I'd probably say no. Which sucks because this was the Cubs division to lose, it felt like at the beginning of the year with Craig Counsell coming in and Bellinger returning. It really seemed that this.
Yeah, go ahead.
It really seemed that this was their division to run away with, but they played a terrible month of May and a bad month of June. And now it's just disappointing to see hey man, this team could have been this good in May, this good in June. And who knows, they could have been one of the better teams in baseball because it just doesn't seem like there's a juggernaut team this year. It doesn't seem like there's I think I saw the projection there's no team that will there's a couple teams that will just finish barely above 100 wins or something.
I mean, the only teams I could see winning 100 at this point would be the Dodgers and the Orioles. I mean,
right. So it just doesn't seem like there's that juggernaut team this year, like the Cubs were in 2016, the Astros the year after, right? And so
the Red Sox, the Dodgers throughout most of this time.
Right. So no, I don't think the Cubs will make it, but I think they're in a really, really good spot if they can keep this momentum they've had since the end of July and then the month of August, that they'll be in a really, really good spot for next year. But it sucks that this year kind of felt like a retooling year when it definitely shouldn't have been.
Right. No, I agree with you. Let's see, 162 minus 139, and they got 23 games to prove it.
Yeah, and 6 of those versus the Dodgers and the
9 of them against Philly, New York, and LA.
Yeah,
and you're gonna have the Cubs with essentially they're 4.5 back now. They would have to get a one game lead on the Braves because the Braves own the tiebreaker. So the Cubs, let's see, they'd have to finish 5 games better than the Braves to end the year. So, and how many games do the Braves have left? They're 75 and 63. 138.
2, 5.
They have 24 games left. So for the Cubs to finish 5 games better, the Braves, the Cubs, let's see, math is hard.
I know.
Let's see. The Cubs have 23 games left. So the Braves would have to go. Let's see, -5 would be 19. But the Braves would have to go 14-10, and the Cubs would have to go 19-4 to end the year.
So you're saying there's a chance? 19.
Yeah, 19-4 would basically have to be it.
Yeah. There's always next
That's
year.
so you could get your 4 losses out of the. You could drop a. Honestly, I could see a world where you drop a game against the Yankees, 2 against the Dodgers, and like 2 against the Phillies. But you have to win everything else. You have
Right.
to win everything else.
Yeah. And you don't, it doesn't seem like Justin Steele's injury is that serious, but anything with the elbow is to be taken serious. So you don't know if he's going to miss any time. That's your, 1A. Shota and Steele are 1 and 1A when it comes to being the best pitcher in the Cubs. So, and then that means you have Hendricks starting, who hasn't been good. So it's just, to me, it just doesn't look like it's not going to be this year.
Yeah, you're probably right, unfortunately. So,
Unfortunately.
with that slightly depressive note, we'll go ahead and send it on out to Craig Counsell to finish this one. That's going to do it for us for Beer versus Ivy. Hopefully next week we will actually be on Monday, and hopefully Sai's internet will stop hating him. Brayden, thank you so much for hopping on despite the slightly depressing end, realizing that the Cubs are probably not going to make the playoffs this year.
I hate to do it. I hate to be that guy, but hey, sometimes the truth hurts.
Yep, got to take your pills, take your medicine. But I really appreciate you coming on in the pinch, coming out of the bullpen once again. Our star closer, ladies and gents, our star closer.
There we go. There he is. That's my Craig Kimbrell. That's my.
You're trying to be those kids from the Little League World Series game.
No, I'm trying to be Craig Kimbrell, but I can't fit into my camera here. Oh, well.
That's it.
Anyway,
I got it
real quick
you.
though.
I got it for you.
There you go. You do it better than I do. Yeah, I can't do that either. I'm wearing a Rizzo jersey. You know, Rizzo's returned to Wrigley this weekend, so it's going to be. I might shed a tear, but anyway.
Welcome back, Capitan. Welcome back, Capitan.
Thank you, Jackson, for having me on. It's always good to rant about the Cubs a little bit and talk about all things baseball with the spice of football. You wouldn't have got that with Sai. Sai just talks out of his rear with football. Come at me, Sai.
I mean, he does that too with baseball because he said that we were overhyping PCA, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. Okay, so. Guy.
All right. That'll do it for us. We will be back next week. Playoffs are right around the corner. Like we said, around 23 to 25 games left of the regular season. So we'll have a full playoff preview at some point, break down all the matchups once that all finally gets shaken out. But we will see you all next week.